Welcome and thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation. My name is Eric Weller, and of course you know I'm a student at Cornerstone University, and I would like to talk to you in this presentation about emotional intelligence and specifically the effect that it has on interpersonal relationships. So I hope to give you an informative idea on what that looks like. Let's just get started. First of all, I just wanted to start by saying that we're all created in the image of God, and He is a relational God. The Bible says that we're a mere image, that we reflect, that we're a perfect reflection of who He is in a lot of ways. Now, I'm not implying that we're perfect, but we bear that same tendency, which is to be drawn to purposeful and meaningful relationships. Just like He pursues relationship with us, we're created in His image, and it's built deep within us. It's hardwired within us to seek out and to have that desire to develop close and meaningful and fulfilling interpersonal relationships. One of the things that I wanted to do is just really define kind of what emotional intelligence is. Emotional intelligence, or EQ, which I might say is different from a person's IQ. A person's IQ is a measure of their cognitive or their academic intelligence. That could be mathematics, their ability to reason, etc. Emotional intelligence is the capacity to be aware of, control, and express one's emotions and to handle interpersonal relationships judiciously and empathetically. The difference between EQ and IQ is EQ has a huge effect on our interpersonal relationships, which in turn affects our quality of life. Our interpersonal relationships and our emotional intelligence have the ability to encourage meaningful relationships and lead to a richer, more fulfilling personal and professional life. I want to just say that again. Developing our EQ, our emotional intelligence, will encourage meaningful relationships and lead to a richer, more fulfilling personal and professional life. And I think everyone's goal is to lead a richer, more meaningful, more personal and professional life. We are image bearers of God. We're hardwired for relationships. When we embrace that and decide to develop our EQ, we're going to find much more success personally and professionally. The first thing that is very important to do, it's crucial, the first step when we're establishing emotional intelligence and we're establishing and building interpersonal relationships, is that we have to establish trust. Stephen Covey, who is a renowned worldwide expert on human relationships and on leadership, he's a college professor, was formerly a consultant for Fortune 500 companies around the world, said that trust is the glue of life, that it's the most essential ingredient in effective communication. It's the foundational principle that holds relationships together. If we are going to become more emotionally intelligent, if we are going to establish our EQ and affect interpersonal relationships in a positive way, we first and foremost must learn to make commitments to people and keep them, to tell the truth, to show respect for others' values and diversity, to establish trust with other people if we are going to even begin to establish our emotional intelligence. There are several characteristics that contribute to a more effective, emotionally intelligent person. I want to specifically talk about 3 of those in this presentation. The first one being self-awareness. Self-awareness is when a person is able to recognize their own emotions, but not just reflectively, having the ability to go back and look at the way they felt or why they felt that way. Being self-aware is knowing moment by moment how we feel. And Dr. Goleman, who wrote the book, the worldwide bestseller on emotional intelligence, says that people with greater certainty about their own feelings and having the ability to know why they're feeling that way and understanding that moment by moment are better pilots of their lives, having a sure sense of how they really feel about personal decisions. And being self-aware is one of the most important characteristics we can develop if we want to become more emotionally intelligent. We have to know our emotions. We have to recognize our feelings. The experts agree. Dr. Goleman's book is one of the foundational works on emotional intelligence, and he really states self-awareness is one of the keys to becoming more emotionally intelligent. The second thing I want to talk about is having empathy, being able to put ourselves in other people's situations, to be able to feel what they're feeling, but not only that, to know why they're feeling that way. It's super important if we are going to develop our emotional intelligence to have empathy towards other people, to seek to understand what they're feeling and why they're feeling that way. The first thing we need to do when we're trying to be empathetic towards somebody else and to develop that trusting interpersonal relationship is we have to seek to understand, we have to listen to what they're saying. As we learn to do this and become a more empathetic person, we're going to have more success with our career. We're going to be better parents. We're going to be better spouses to our significant other. Empathy is cornerstone if we're going to develop our emotional intelligence. Lastly, two important characteristics that are one and the same are grace and forgiveness. These characteristics are pivotal if we're going to develop interpersonal relationships and really nurture and foster an emotionally intelligent personality. Luke 6:37 says, "Judge not, or you will be judged." It says, "Condemn not, or you yourself will be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven." And I think as we take this principle to heart, that when we decide that we are going to pursue emotional intelligence and deepen our interpersonal relationships, we have to start with being people of grace and forgiveness. We have to be like Christ and show them love. We have to not only tell them with words, but make them feel like we accept them for who they are, regardless of all their blemishes, regardless of what they have done or said, or who they think they might be. But when we're able to develop the characteristics of grace and forgiveness, show love and be like Christ, and make people feel like we accept them, and when they know that we love them, it's going to deepen that interpersonal relationship and lead to a more fulfilling and purposeful life. I guess we all have to decide if we're going to attempt to increase our emotional intelligence, if we're going to attempt to develop our EQ. John Maxwell, who is a leading expert on leadership and interpersonal relationships, worldwide speaker, consultant, and best-selling author, says that while some possess the characteristics of emotional intelligence intuitively, others can acquire these skills through study and effort. And to me, that's very encouraging. Not everyone is born intuitively as a connector, as just having those tendency towards understanding and being empathetic and forgiving and really being self-aware about what they feel and why they feel that way. Some of us have to work at it. Don't give up. It's worth it. When we develop these characteristics and we work on our emotional intelligence, it's going to lead to a more fulfilling career, a more fulfilling and happier personal life. We'll be more of a trustworthy person. We'll develop interpersonal and trusting relationships. When we're aware of our own emotions and why we're feeling that way, when we seek to understand the emotions of other people, really listen to them, when we become forgiving and when we become forgivers and people of grace, our relationships are going to flourish and we're going to lead happier and more fulfilling lives. So thank you for taking the time to listen to this. I look forward to watching your presentations as well, and have a good weekend.